So, there's also a distinction between sex and gender. Sex pertains to our physical traits, genetic makeups, and other biological traits. And when someone, a scholar, invented these concepts, it was way before reassignment surgery was invented. And because of that, in those days, people had the mindset that sex cannot be changed. And we go by this definition from those who invented this concept hundreds of years ago. We know that now we can change our sex. And genders pertains to the ideas, traits, interests, and skills attached to a particular sex group. And genders can occur in two spectrums when masculinity is on one end of the spectrum and femininity is on the other end of the spectrum. And we all know that very few of us are on the extreme ends of that spectrum. We are somewhere in between. That's gender. So, as we can see, the concept of gender is socially constructed, not the concept of sex. Am I making myself clear? Okay. And the words male and females pertains to sex. It pertains to our reproductive organs, genetic makeups. And we know that the genetic makeups can differ between men and women, and this can contribute to the risk of different diseases and illnesses that differs between the two sexes. And as times goes by, people started to create subcategories between the larger category of male and female, or men and women. And many years ago, maybe through ancient texts, traditional religions, including the Bible, and other philosophies in olden times, people tended to believe in gender binary. They believed that they were only two sexes, men and women. And men are always masculine and women are always feminine. And as times goes by, through the process of industrialization, urbanization, and modernization, maybe people move to the cities. Men move first, and women and children follow suit. And because of that, they began to explore their sexuality and sexual orientation. Maybe they had more liberty to explore their sexuality and sexual orientation. When they live with people, they hardly know. So they found out that there are people who can also be classified as intersex. People with traits of both males and females. Intersex can be a biological term. And people who are classified as intersex are born with the organs of both men and women, or other physical traits of men and women. They may look like a female, but they may have thicker facial hair and other manly traits. These people are classified as intersex. And they also consider people who are born of a given sex and they perform the duties of the gender identities pertaining to their sex. Males who adopt masculine traits and females who adopt feminine characteristics. They classify these people as cisgender. People who are born of a given sex. They tend to perform tests that are expected for their gender groups. This is what we mean by cisgender. And people who are born of a given sex, but they adopt the traits and characteristics and they perform tests of another gender. We call these people the transgender. And some of the trans are also considered non-binaries. And these people, they don't consider themselves men or women. So when people move to a new surroundings because of industrialization, urbanization, and modernization, scholars or even people themselves, they started to realize that there are other gender categories, gender groups, or other kinds of sexualities and other types of sexual orientations aside from the gender binary classification. This is a manifestation that sex, sexual desires, or gender groups are socially constructed. And sometimes, because of the stereotypes, people of a given sex tends to adopt the traits, characteristics, and perform the tests associated with their gender groups. And think about this. When after people, when they went through the scan and they know the sex of their babies, they themselves or their close relatives, immediate family members, or their friends, they started to get them blue blanket or pink blanket. This is a manifestation of the social construction of sex and gender. Social construction of gender, to be specific. People, even before the baby was born, started to expect or assume that the baby should adopt the gender roles of his or her given sex. And I don't know if you realize, pay close attention to different TV commercials or commercials on YouTube and other social media platforms. We can see that gender-based stereotypes and gender roles expectations are portrayed in many of these commercials. Don't believe me? Start paying close attention to these commercials. Women, regardless of their age, are still expected to be feminine. When these marketing people, businesses are trying to sell their products, men are still expected to act masculine. And marketing people, business people assume that only men will frequent certain kinds of stores. And how they structure the commercials, how they pick the music and other things to go with that commercial is closely tied to the gender-based stereotypes and gender roles expectations. Certain stores only focus on men because people still expect that men should fix most of the things around the house. Men should be handymen, so to speak. And in some instances, men are still expected to be the sole breadwinners in their household, in their families. And people still assume that women's income, even if they work, are only supplemental to their husband's income, which is not the case, especially in single female household. But these gender-based stereotypes have not really changed. And this is manifested in the pay gaps between men and women, even if they perform the same jobs. And just pay attention to the toys boys and girls are expected to play. Just pay attention to the video games boys and girls, and later on, adolescent females and adolescent males are expected to play. We see manifestation of gender-based stereotypes and gender roles expectations. And because of that, we can say that gender roles are socially constructed.